everyone, welcome to our second video about cellular respiration. In this video, I'm going to break cellular respiration down into its 3 steps. So you'll remember that photosynthesis had 2 steps and cellular respiration now actually has 3 steps. So both of those processes, cellular respiration and photosynthesis, are considered to be metabolism. And you might have heard metabolism before. Like if you have a fast metabolism, that means you burn energy really fast. Well, metabolism just means processing energy. So cellular respiration is one way that we process energy, and we're going to break that down into the 3 steps called glycolysis, which happens actually outside of the mitochondria in the cytoplasm of the cell. Then the Krebs cycle, which is also known as the citric acid cycle. But the Krebs cycle takes place in the matrix of the mitochondria, there in the middle. And finally, the electron transport chain, which actually takes place on the inner membrane. And you'll remember the inner membrane of the mitochondria has all these things called cristae, which increase its surface area and provide lots of space for the electron transport chain to take place. So 3 steps: glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. Let's break it down. So glycolysis, look at the word glyco. You can kind of see glucose in there. And lysis means to break apart. So glycolysis means the splitting of glucose. And what is used? A glucose molecule. Where did you get it? You ate it from a plant or an animal. But you have a glucose molecule brought into your cell. And this, again, remember, is taking place in the cytoplasm of your cell. So we're not yet in the mitochondria. This is in the cytoplasm of your cell. This glucose goes through the process of glycolysis. And glycolysis causes the glucose to be broken into 2 little small molecules that are called pyruvate. So glucose gets broken down into 2 pyruvate molecules, which are smaller and can now fit into the mitochondria. A little bit of energy is also produced. Some ATP and NADH are just like charged up energy molecules, kind of like a battery. So glucose is used, pyruvate and energy are produced, and this happens in the cytoplasm. Next up, the Krebs cycle, or the citric acid cycle. We used to always just call it the citric acid cycle, but this guy named Hans Adolf Krebs, kind of like Melvin Calvin, determined all of the steps of this big reaction. There are many different reactions that take place in this cycle, and Hans Adolf Krebs discovered what happens at each stage. And so we now call this the Krebs cycle, named after Hans Adolf Krebs. Now, where does this happen? You can see here in this picture that the Krebs cycle takes place in the matrix of the mitochondria. So that's kind of like a gel-like substance in the middle of the mitochondria. So remember, glycolysis had taken place outside in the cytoplasm, and now the pyruvate comes in. You can see the pyruvate coming in. And it's going to begin the citric acid cycle, or the Krebs cycle, in the matrix of the mitochondria. And it's a series of reactions where pyruvate is used and oxygen is actually also used, oxygen that you would have breathed in. And what is made is carbon dioxide, which you can see there, and energy, NADH, FADH2, more NADH. So different small energy molecules are made. So pyruvate and oxygen are used. They go through a series of reactions that produce carbon dioxide and a little bit of energy molecules. Next up, the electron transport chain. Now, this is the key part of the whole cellular respiration process. So what is used is a lot of oxygen, which you breathe in the oxygen that you get to have to use during the electron transport chain. So you breathe that oxygen in, and it goes to your cells, and it goes to the mitochondria of your cells. And it is used to make some water, but mainly lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of this stuff called ATP. and ATP is usable energy. So this whole process of cellular respiration started with you having some glucose sugar, but your body can't just automatically use that glucose sugar. That's why it's gone through these 3 steps: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain in order to make ATP. And so, again, in the electron transport chain, which actually happens on the inner membrane of the mitochondria, we're having this oxygen come in, water getting made, but mainly the reason why that's happening is so that we can move hydrogen across the cell membrane and create a concentration gradient. So remember that from studying about the cell membrane, that now we have a high concentration of hydrogen out here, and that used up some of the energy, like the FADH2 that had been made in the Krebs cycle. You could see those energy molecules were made. Those little energy molecules were made to pump hydrogen across the inner membrane of the mitochondria, and that hydrogen then wants to move from high to low. And when it moves from high to low, it actually moves through this protein called an ATP synthase, which actually is an enzyme, guys. So it's a protein that is an enzyme. When hydrogen moves through, that helps produce ATP, lots of usable ATP energy produced from originally ADP, which is like an uncharged battery, and ATP is like a charged battery. So those hydrogens move through ATP synthase enzyme, and that creates lots and lots of ATP, which is usable energy. So your cells couldn't use the glucose automatically, that had to get converted to ATP. And now your cells can use ATP to have lots and lots of energy to do the things that you want to do to help you move and help you function. Thank you for listening.